for my first pick of the Week 11 Sunday six pack, I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys -1.5 at the Minnesota Vikings. My job was easy here. I said last week on the podcast, hopefully, you asked, do you think the Packers are going to win outright? I said, yeah, I think the Packers are actually going to win outright. I said, hopefully we get the Packers to win outright and Josh Allen sits and the Vikings win. And then we'll get a spot to fade the Vikings at home with the Cowboys. Well, Josh Allen played. The Vikings somehow still pulled off that win. The second luckiest win per post-game win probability since 2014. The first was the Dolphins over the Ravens earlier this year. I think the Bills had a 99.3% post-game win expectancy, which looks at the entirety of the game. It's not like at one point in time. I know people on Twitter brought up, like, the Browns against the Jets. Like, yeah, they had a 99.9% win probability at one point. But if you look at the totality of the game and what happened and how it played out, I think the Vikings recovered like 6 fumbles in the game. So, yeah, the Vikings luck tour continued last week. They've won 7 straight now, all by 1 possession. And no matter how you look at this, I tried to find reasons to think that the Vikings aren't just average. And it's basically, I mean, you could throw it up to Justin Jefferson, which is way above average play call. He's amazing. By the way, he's dealing with a toe injury, so we'll see if he's limited at all. But everywhere you look, they're average. I mean, let's look at DVOA. They're 17th. Similar, like my power ratings have them around a league average team. Dallas, by the way, is 4th, and they've played 6 games with Cooper Rush. If you remove turnovers, EPA per play, Minnesota's 16th on offense. Their defense is 17th. And by the way, Dallas's defense, the biggest jump of any team this year, if you remove turnovers. Last year, their defense was extremely reliant on turnovers. If you remove turnovers, they go from a top 5 defense to a top 5 defense. They are just good across the board. You look at estimated wins on Football Outsiders, Dallas is 7.7 with Cooper Rush starting 6 games. That's 3rd in the NFL. Minnesota's 4.5, 17th. I mean, you look at yards per play, they are 16th. How about yards per play allowed? They're 28th. Negative 0.5 net yards per play. Dallas is positive 0.4. This is also a great situational spot. You have much more urgency for Dallas sitting in 3rd place in the division, coming off a loss. Minnesota coming off that just crazy win in the game of the year. Game was amazing, by the way. I still can't believe how that catch, Jefferson made that catch. Doesn't seem possible just from the laws of physics, but great spot here for Dallas to rebound. And then just from a matchup perspective and other factors, Minnesota still has some turnover regression coming. They're +8, 2nd in the league. They've recovered 75% of their own fumbles, 65% of opponent fumbles. Cousins has been lucky in the turnover department under pressure. Speaking of pressure, Dallas 2nd in the NFL, 29.6% pressure rate. Vikings are 30th in pressure rate allowed. And one of the better tackles in the NFL that not a lot of people are talking about, Darrisaw, who's going to be a stud at left tackle for years to come. He's in concussion protocol. He can't play. That's bad news for Minnesota, who comes in more banged up, I think. Here's an area. Smith's a little nicked up. Their secondary is banged up. Dallas, too, but it looks like they think Anthony Brown's going to play at corner, which would help since they had some injuries there as well. But Cousins under pressure this year has been bad. 5.1 yards per attempt, 28th out of 30 qualified quarterbacks. He's just ahead of Zach Wilson. 7 big-time throws, 9 turn-worthy plays, yet he has 8 touchdowns and 2 interceptions under pressure. Again, been lucky. Now, some of that is you can just throw it up to Justin Jefferson, and he's going to compensate for some bad throws. But when I look at this game, it's just good spot, and I think a good matchup. I also think Dallas will be able to move the ball here. Minnesota's defense is very suspect. They are dead last in the NFL in drive success rate. But overall, I think these offenses are fairly similar. Now, it'll be a big loss if Minnesota loses their left tackle in this particular matchup. But offenses are fairly similar. But the Dallas defense is significantly better, and the Dallas special teams are significantly better. Taking into account the situation, the matchup, the injuries, I have Dallas here as a 3-point favorite. All I wanted was anything under 3. 1.5 is fine with me. I think Dallas wins this game. And the Vikings luck maybe comes to an end, but I like this for various other reasons as well.
what a just ridiculously lucky turn of events for the Vikings. And it's funny because I actually had a pretty lucky week betting. I went 6-3, but you have to judge your results off the closing line. And I had a just disaster of a week, starting with, I jumped the gun thinking the Panthers wouldn't get to 3. Got lucky. They still covered it. Got the Vikings at 4.5 and 3.5 on the pod. And they somehow come back and get it done. So I had just as much luck as the Vikings. So I'm happy it happened that way. Good to get some of those bounces, but I can't disagree here. All right, for my first pick and the second overall of the Week 11 Sunday six-pack presented by FanDuel, I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts plus 6.5 at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. And, I like what I saw out of the Colts a week ago. I think they have a few things working for them in this spot in particular. The first is that Jeff Saturday, what did he do when he took over? He reinstalls Matt Ryan, and they go back to, running the football effectively with Jonathan Taylor. Well, now you're going to face this Eagles defense that is 28th in DVOA against the run. They're a bottom 5 run defense. I mean, we saw what Dameon Pierce did to them a couple of weeks ago. We saw what the Commanders tandem did to them on Monday night. And this defense was on the field for 83 snaps in that game against Washington. And now they have to go on a short week to another team that wants to play ball control, run the football. Fletcher Cox, I think he played 70 snaps. He was even saying like, wow, like this is a lot for me. So I think it's a bad spot for Philly from that perspective. But I also think, this Colts team, obviously everyone was kind of down and out on them. They were going through a rough spot and everyone thought they were tanking, but it's obvious that they are not tanking. And when you get a new coach, what you get a lot of times is some schematic changes that kind of go under the radar. And, Saturday being an offensive line coach, that was one of the major issues with this Indianapolis offense was their line. And, it's obviously just 1 week, but they were a lot better than I've seen them all season in that game against the Raiders. And, the numbers back it up. If you look at PFF's grading, Ryan Kelly, best grade since week 1. Nelson, highest grade of the year. The left tackle Rainman, highest pass blocking grade of the year. And the first time he didn't allow pressure since week 1. Prize, the right guard, 83.2 run blocking grade, his best of the year. So overall, 4 pressures, 0 sacks allowed for that offensive line. And most importantly, when you're facing this Eagle defense, who you want to be able to run on, Jonathan Taylor, 83 yards before contact in that game, 3.8 yards on average per carry before first contact. So that tells me that this offensive line can get it done here in another good matchup. And then flipping it over, we know what Indianapolis is going to do on defense. They still have that Gus Bradley system, and they're still playing a lot of zone coverage. Well, Philadelphia going up against this matchup, A.J. Brown, he destroys man coverage, but 1.5 yards per route against zone is kind of average. And you lost one of your best players against zone coverage in Dallas Goedert, the tight end, who's going to be out. He was averaging 2.1 yards per route against zone. So I think Philadelphia
has struggled to cover tight ends.
Right, exactly. As teams that play almost nonstop zone tend to do. So I just think it's a tough spot for Philadelphia on the short week, given what transpired in that Monday night game. And then, given the matchup at hand, and, you kind of have to throw out a lot of what we saw with the Colts. But remember, coming into the year, we just thought, okay, this is like a middling team that could compete with what would probably be a middling Titans team for that division. And, now you're getting 7 points at home because, the Eagles are, just came off their first loss of the season. Everyone's like, of course they're going to bounce back. But again, I just think it's a tough spot, and you cannot really go wrong with underdogs. Especially, it's not a super high total game. I think the total is 44 as we record this. And this season, underdogs by more than a field goal with a total of 47 or less, 46-19 against the spread, 71%. So like the number, like the matchup, like the spot, like pretty much everything about this one. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. And I think Saturday is gonna continue to kind of make people eat their words who tried to slander him after he took the job.
Yeah. Would you have bet the Cowboys this week?
Would I?
Yeah, would you have taken the Cowboys in 6-pack?
No.
So I was deciding between what to go first, the Colts or the Cowboys, and I went with the Cowboys. And then I was just like, I hope that you don't take the Colts because that was going to be my clear second. And then
I mean, you know me though. Like, even if I am going to take a favorite, it will probably be my last pick. Like, I don't think I've ever taken a favorite first. Maybe, yeah. I don't think I have. So yeah, you gotta.
Yeah, but you don't like the Colts. That's why I thought you're not a Colts guy.
Hey, I adjust to new information. I adjust to new information.
I know. I just thought I would have an extra pick before I could get to the Colts, which I was incorrect for. Yeah, but I love this. This is one of my first bets of the week.
Okay.
That I made once this line reopened after the Monday night game, and yeah, I mean, you said it. First of all, the Eagles have been getting extremely lucky this year. They were plus 16 turnover margin going into that game last week. People were like, oh, they got unlucky. Well, yeah, they're due to not get every bounce in every game. And they were plus 16. The Vikings have the second best turnover margin, plus 8. They were 8 better than the next best team. They played no one, as everyone knows. Their best team they played is the Vikings. It's one of the luckiest teams in the NFL. So yeah, the Eagles are still a good team. I think this loss will serve them well in the long run, but not in the short run. All those plays on defense, their defense is going to be gassed. They're also missing Maddox, really important slot corner.
And Campbell's coming on strong, like kind of out of nowhere. But his last 3 games, he has at least 7 catches and a touchdown. Last 3 games with Matt Ryan, that is. So that's kind of an under the radar thing when you look at the Colts. Like, oh, how are they going to move the ball? Pittman might get taken away by Slayer and Bradbury, but Campbell's actually been Matt Ryan's go-to guy.
Yep. Yeah, and the Eagles' run defense without Jordan Davis is just significantly worse. With him on the field, they're only allowing 3.87 yards per carry without 5.1. It's a massive drop. And yeah, but the rest of their defense is on the field forever. I think the Colts have new belief now. Like, they're in that division. With Saturday rallying the troops, everyone doubting them, they installed Ryan back at quarterback instead of Ellinger, we saw was not going to work. And yeah, they're just going to feed Taylor, not on the injury report today. Looked healthy last week. And you mentioned it. Offensive line looked great. And this is just a really good spot. They're going to lean on Taylor here. Some injuries for the Eagles. Even A.J. Brown tweaked his ankle. We don't know how healthy he is. So yeah, I love the Colts here. Wouldn't be shocked if they went outright.
Yeah, and don't underestimate, now that Saturday has kind of given them like some rejuvenation. This is their first home game with him, and I think it's going to be pretty crazy for people are going to be hyped out there. So I could see a few more bounces going the Colts way instead of the Eagles this week.
Yeah, and I mean the Colts. Look, it kind of felt like everything under Reich, and they were firing their offensive coordinators, and I mean, look, they lost by 1 to the Commanders. Crazy catch by McLaurin. They did a drop. Easily could have won that game. They outplayed the Titans twice, and they just got tightened.
Beat the Chiefs.
They beat the Chiefs. But I'm saying, like, a couple, they tied the Texans in a game they graded out as a winner. They could have a couple more wins here, and they would be right around where we thought, like an average team. And I don't think an average team at home, rejuvenated with a good matchup in a good spot, catching a team that's exhausted with some injuries off a short week, should be catching 6 or more points, especially in today's scoring environment with a total this low. All right, for my second pick and the third overall of the Week 11 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Los Angeles Chargers plus 5.5 at FanDuel, I think.
Yep.
Shop around for this number. Think, and if it's at 5.5 when you're listening to this, again, wait. 5's a dead number. 6 is fairly key. Maybe you get some public money on the Chiefs ahead of this matchup since it's in prime time. You got a lot of chasers, but this line is coming down because number one, I think it was too high, but number two, there's potential positive injury news for the Chargers, who could get back one of Mike Williams or Keenan Allen, maybe both. And I think they'll be kind of a pipe dream, but we'll see.
That's the plan. I mean, who knows if it's going to come to fruition, but both of them are practicing, I believe.
Practicing, yeah.
Yep. But, so, I mean, that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, well, Keenan Allen, we'll see.
Yeah, because he has to get through like 3 practices, and he hasn't been able to do that.
Yeah, we'll see. But Keenan Allen is really key in the way that they need both. I mean, Mike Williams stretches the field, and then Keenan Allen, with all the slants and short passes that Lombardi calls, it's just he's that security blanket, that third down, and that rock that would just be a huge bump to Justin Herbert. But this line is crazy. Even if one or both are out. I mean, the Chargers were plus 3.5 at Kansas City earlier this season. I bet the Chargers. The Chargers covered. The Chargers could have won, arguably should have won. And they've had injuries now. You have to downgrade them. But now they're, earlier in the week, they're plus 7, plus 6.5, plus 6. Now they're catching over a field goal more at home. And they were just plus 7 on the road at San Fran, who I think is right there with Kansas City for my power ratings. And that was on the road. San Fran a little below, but that was on the road, and they didn't have any receivers for that game. So, this line is way too high. Also, matchup wise, it's a good matchup for the Chargers. That's why these games are always close. Herbert is 4-1 against the spread against the Chiefs, 2-3 straight up. His losses were by 3, 3, and 6 in overtime. He has not trailed by more than 3 at the end of regulation in any of his 5 meetings with the Chiefs. Also, when you want to fade Mahomes, you want to do it as a favorite of over a field goal. He's 28-31-1 against the spread, including the postseason in his career. As a favorite of 3 or less, or an underdog, don't really want to get in the habit of fading. He's 17-5-1 against the spread. This Chiefs team just at times struggles to get margin because they don't have a great defense. But yeah, it's a great matchup because the Chargers pass D still good. Still arguably a top 10 to 12 pass defense. The run defense is bad, and it's decimated. I mean, I don't know who's playing defensive line this week. They're going to have to sign some guys. But that's okay against the Chiefs. The Chiefs can't run it this year. They're 26 in success rate. And if the Chiefs want to come out here and run it, then you're fine with it. Okay. Mahomes, you want to just hand it off all game? They'll live with that.
They covered. That's how they covered against the Niners.
Yep. And then the Chargers just have a number of star players on defense that can make plays in the red zone, that will get a turnover here or there. And that's basically what they did against the Niners. And I do think that the Chiefs, look, they might have some potential injuries at receiver. Their offensive line isn't playing as well as I had projected, and their numbers are outrageously good, especially on offense. But I think the results are a bit skewed. They played the Cardinals in week 1, right, who had a practice squad defense, and they put up 50. They played a 49ers defense that was missing about 6 or 7 starters. They got to play the Titans with a backup quarterback. So they have a couple results on their schedule that I think are skewing some of their results. But basically, this is just too many points. Justin Herbert with now what's probably going to be a healthier wide receiver group, and you still have Eckler and a good matchup for their defense. Too many points at home for the Chargers. Yeah, give me Los Angeles here all day.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one as well. It's just like we've talked about, this Charger team just knows how to stay in games, and it's been just a miserable season for Herbert in terms of what he's had at his disposal. And if he just gets one of those guys back, like you said, I think it could be night and day, especially against this defense. And if they have to score points, they could do it. You got Justin Herbert, you got Eckler, you should have one of the receivers. Palmer's coming on. Looks like Everett got banged up, but it looks like he's going to be okay, at least according to Staley. So yeah, you could have a situation where the Chiefs are without Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman as well. So you could kind of flip it to where all of a sudden the Chiefs may be the ones with, more injury issues at the scopages. Let me sit down. you all of a sudden you could flip it, and the Chiefs could be the most injured team at the skill position. So, yeah, home dog again. Another one of those. It's not, the total's not low, but another one of those dogs by more than a field goal, which have just been absolutely crushing this season. You know, games are just a little bit lower scoring. Games are just closer. And the Chargers have always played that way. And, you know, if you do get into trouble, Brandon Staley will bail you out. He's going to be aggressive. And,
you have an elite quarterback who, if you need it, will get you in the back door.
You know what was surprising to me? The Chargers haven't gone for 2 yet this year. That is like, I could not believe that when I saw that. But yeah, I agree. All right, for my second pick and the 4th overall of the Week 11 Sunday 6-pack presented by FanDuel, I am going with the Pittsburgh Steelers plus 4.5 at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. And this is basically a bet on TJ Watt, a bet on the Bengals still missing Jamar Chase, which, you know, that he's on crutches earlier in the week. Don't think he's going to be back, and a bet on Tomlin in this spot. But I think Chase, you know, I know it didn't, you know, it hurt them against the Browns and then didn't really matter against the Panthers. But even with the bye, I still think it's a big loss, because you look at, you know, Chase against Pittsburgh, that connection with him and Burrow, 17-24, 233 yards, 3 touchdowns, 15 first downs, 9.7 yards an attempt, 12.5% touchdown rate. Everyone else just 50-70 for 467 and 3 scores. So just 6.7 yards an attempt. And the touchdown rate is cut into a third. So I think that's going to be tough. And, you know, this Steeler defense, when they have TJ Watt, they can play in these, you know, 13-10 kind of games. I mean, we saw it last week with the Saints, you know, just a low scoring battle. It's the second division game. So I think it's going to kind of fit that script again. And this Steeler team just continues to show up. They didn't close as an underdog last week against the Saints, but so Tomlin, that would have improved Tomlin to 16-3-3 against the spread as a home dog. But since they closed as a 1-point favorite, he's still 15-3-3 against the spread as a home dog, 48-26 with 3 pushes, 65% as a dog in all spots in his career. And still no Chidobe Awuzie, obviously, for the Bengals. So, you know, Pickens, I think, could potentially get going in this matchup. And yeah, give me the Steelers. I just think hard fought game, anything over a field goal, I'll take it at home.
Yeah, don't mind the spot. Don't mind the divisional dog. This is I think this would classify as a rah-rah spot. I mean, this is the Steelers. You know, they're playing their one of their division rivals. And this is let me see. Yeah, the AFC. Yeah, this is their season. If they have any prayer, which they're not, but, you know.
Hey, never count out Tomlin. Never count out Mike.
They have to win this game against Cincy. And, yeah, TJ Watt being back is massive. You hope that Fitzpatrick can go as well. But Watt, just on the field versus off, it's a yard per play difference. It's massive. And then the havoc that he can cause. I mean, earlier this season against the Bengals, when we were on them, he tackled Burrow and Mixon at the point of the handoff, took them both down, and then the next play picked Burrow off. Like, that's what he could do to a game.
He's like the Justin Jefferson of defensive players. Like, just ridiculous plays that you just like, you don't even know what to say anymore. It's like, wow.
Yeah, and the Cincy offensive line, they'll have games where they can just get wrecked. And yeah, the offense without Chase is much easier to defend.
And by the way, mentioned this last week, but worth bringing up again, the Steelers have played the toughest schedule in the National Football League this year. And last week against the Saints was the first time they didn't play a team in the top 13 in DVOA. And what happens, they get a 10-point win. So, you know, it wasn't pretty, but just remember that this Steeler team, you know, as bad as they've looked at times, it's been a really, really tough schedule. And this Bengals team is a team that they've already shown they could beat. And Chase caught 10 balls for 129 in that first matchup. So, he kind of single-handedly kept them around when Burrow was struggling. So it's going to be a tough spot.
I think he should have had 11 for one.
Yeah, he missed like 3 touchdowns. I mean, I haven't.
He had one where he dragged his foot, I think, but they didn't call it a touchdown too. Like that was, he's amazing. Big loss. Although they kept, I don't think he's playing, right? They didn't put him on IR because they said there's a chance he could come back this week.
Yeah, I think that was more, they were hoping he could come back post-bye or sometime around this time, but he started the week on crutches, and there's been no indication that he's going to play from any of the reports. And just from the line movement, this line was, hovering around 6. I think it opened 5.5, 5, and now it's down to 4 at a lot of books. So get that 4.5 if you can, but still like it at anything over a field goal.
Yeah. All right, for my third pick in the 5th overall of the Week 11 Sunday 6-pack, I'm going with the Houston Texans plus 3.5 at home against the Washington Commanders, your commies. This is I'm not going to sit here and hype the Texans, although they played better the past 2 weeks. Covered against Philly. Score was closer than maybe the game was actually closer than maybe the final score indicates. And then last week, they thoroughly outplayed the Giants. Thoroughly. I mean, they averaged over 6 yards per play. They just got into the red zone and could not score over and over again. More Giants luck. But they were the better team statistically that day. Now they come home. They get Washington off a short week off of a massive win. This is such a flat spot going out of conference to Houston. And basically, I just think that it's too many points. And if I can get over a field goal in today's scoring environment in a great spot at home, I'm going to take it. Now we're asking Tyler Heineke to Heineke. What am I saying? Let me say it again. Now we're asking Tyler Heineke. Why can't I say that right now? Now we're asking Tyler Heineke to win with margin, to win by more than 3. This is the same Washington team that went on the road to Indianapolis when they were a corpse and made Sam Ehlinger look competent. Like he was throwing all over the field. We got to slow Washington is better, improved, better with Heineke than with Wentz. But now we're talking about laying 3.5 on the road. I think this is the peak of the market value in a great spot for Houston. So give me the Texans. I just think that this line should be like closer to 2. You're going to give me over the magic 3. Would buy this up to minus 120, minus 125. I think it's that important in this game. And give me the Texans at home. Good spot and good number.
Yeah, I make it around 2 as well. I have not pulled the trigger. The one thing that does give me pause from a matchup perspective is the Commanders do play the run well, and I think that's what makes this Texan offense go is Dameon Pierce. Now he's good enough to beat any run defense, which is kind of the counterpoint to that, but would rather not have them facing a top 5 run defense. But yeah, you're getting more than a field goal, and it's been the magic number, especially in these kind of low scoring games. And Texans should have Brandon Cooks back for a full complement of snaps. I know he went to the locker room in that last one, and he obviously sat out the one before. They actually did cover against the Eagles, so can't hate on it.
Yeah, I mean, basically what I think happened here is you're getting, now Washington, they could potentially come out a little flat here, but because of what happened on Monday against the Eagles, and I upgraded Washington a tiny bit, but you're getting an extra point over the 3. Like I think this line would have been 2.5 if Washington lost by 7 to 10 against the Eagles. Now, and if the Texans won as well. Now the Texans outplayed the Giants, should have won, but didn't. They got unlucky. And Washington, let's be honest, they averaged 4 yards per play. And they had a great game plan. They got a bunch of bounces and a bunch of calls that the Eagles had coming, but they were outgained by over 1.5 yards per play. They were just able to control the clock the entire game. I don't think anything really fundamentally changed with Washington. That point difference between 2.5 and 3.5, massive. And that's what I think we're getting here because of what happened on Monday. All right, where you going?
For my third and final pick, the sixth overall of the Week 11 Sunday six pack presented by FanDuel, I am going with the Las Vegas Raiders plus 2.5 at the Denver Broncos. And this is another one of these spots where, kind of like earlier in the year, just tested Aaron Rodgers in that Packer offense. Let's test this Broncos offense. Let's see if they can score enough points, because they haven't been able to. And when you look at this Raider team, they are pretty much the only offense that had any semblance of success for an entire game against this Bronco D. They put up a season high 32 points on Denver in the first meeting, a season high 385 yards. Denver barely given up 300 in any other game, 385 for the Raiders in that one. 6 scoring drives, just 4 punts, along with the end of game drive. And Vegas was able to run it, which I think they need to get back to, 38 times for 212 yards. This Bronco D is still 20th in DVOA against the run. And you look at that matchup and the success that the Raiders had, and then you look at who from that game is not going to be on the field for Denver this time around. First of all, Randy Gregory, 46 snaps, 5 pressures in that game, the second highest graded player on D. He's still on IR. Bradley Chubb, 53 snaps, couple of pressures, a pass breakup, the third best graded player on D, traded. Slot corner K'Wan Williams played 49 snaps, got a sack off the edge. The fourth best graded player in that game, he is out and considered week to week. Ronald Darby played 75 snaps in that game, only allowed 1 catch on 40 snaps in coverage. He's on IR. The safety Caden Stearns played 75 snaps. Now Simmons should be back, so that's a wash. But you have pretty much half of the defense, that was on the field in a game that the Raiders still had success. That's not going to be there this time around. Brownings, it did practice on a limited basis, but he's no guarantee to be able to go for a full complement of snaps. It's the first time he's practicing since that hip injury. And then on the other side of the ball, Vegas is not going to have to do a ton, because Denver, yes, Vegas, right, exactly. Vegas, terrible defense, no denying that, right? But like you said, Cortland Sutton is the player you have to worry about on that Bronco offense. And why is that the case? Because look who's out on this Denver offense. KJ Hamler, 55-yard catch in that first game. He's out. Jerry Jeudy, ankle injury, iffy. 5 targets, 4 catches, 53 and a touch in the first meeting. And then you look at the line. Your center, Cushenberry, on IR. He played 53 snaps and was their top-rated pass blocker in the first matchup. Your left tackle, Garrett Bowles. He was the second best pass blocker in that game. He's on IR, broke his leg. Glasgow, who was playing right guard, now he's the center replacing Cushenberry. He got hurt, and he's day-to-day with a shoulder issue. He's no guarantee to be 100%. Cam Fleming, your right tackle, is also day-to-day with a quad. Your fullback, Andrew Beck, still hasn't practiced. That's a guy that gives you some good blocking snaps. So, and either way, regardless of who plays or who doesn't, this offense, as you could see if you've watched any part of any Broncos game, cannot afford the lack of continuity. Like, they need the practice reps. They need guys to be in sync together on that line, because it's just not working. And they wanted to try to go more hurry up, and with all the injuries, that's going to really be hard, because you need cohesion. If not, it's just going to be a bunch of penalties and quick 3 and out. So Kendall Hinton,
they abandoned that quickly.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, like that was another one of those games where I caught the didn't beat the close, because it went all the way down to 36.5. I got it at 39. 36.5 on the pod, still liked it, but went all the way back up to, I think, 39.5 it got to, because pretty much half of each defense was ruled out, and still Broncos couldn't score. So this Raider team, I think you could take advantage of the Colts, what we saw from the Colts in multiple ways. Number one, we actually saw something good, and I think you can have confidence in them to cover the number against the Eagles. But I also think that now everyone's looking at the Raiders like, oh, it's doomsday. It's over for them. They're incapable of doing anything. They just lost to a joke in the Jeff Saturday Colts. Whereas I think the Raiders match up just fine against this Bronco team. And remember, Patrick Surtain, the best player the Broncos have on that defense, that corner, he's been amazing this year. But in that game, that first matchup, gave up the most yards he's given up all year, 60. Devontae Adams had no problems in that one, went for over 100 on 9 catches. And Surtain was targeted 12 times by Derek Carr in that one. He hasn't been targeted even like more than 6 times in any other game this year. So for whatever reason, this Raider offense has been kind of out of sorts, but they, against the toughest matchup that they've had, they found a way to put it together. And now I just think this Bronco team is a lot more ravaged by injury than you would think, given the number. And I've even seen it, hit 3, a juiced up 3 at some spots. Everyone's on the Broncos here, just thinking this Raider team, is a joke after losing to Saturday. But this team is just ravaged by like you talk about the Raiders putting Waller and Renfro on IR. Okay, big deal. They barely played all year, didn't contribute when they did. But this Bronco team has key contributors on the line, at receiver, all over the defense that are just not going to be on the field. So I think it could get ugly for Denver. So even though I'm not getting the 3, I'm still taking the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Every Broncos game is the same. It's like a game in the teens, and they have the ball late, trying to score to take the lead. Yeah, they're just that's all my notes are about them being decimated by injuries. Yeah, they just, their offense is just such a slog, and now they're dealing with a ton of injuries. We didn't even mention like their running game now is awful without Javonte Williams, like who was out for the year from earlier. Like
he got hurt in that Raider game.
Yeah, actually, it is just a shell unit. And yeah, the Raiders, by the way, Carr's owned the Broncos. I think the Raiders are 9-1 against the spread, the last 10 against the Broncos. The Raiders have now lost 3 games with a lead of at least 17 points. That is tied for the record in a season already. For most losses that they're leading by 17 or more points within a single season. Imagine if they won all those games. Broncos, by the way, they're last in scoring on offense and first in scoring on defense.
Yep.
The last time any team finished last and first, 1946 Steelers. So we'll see if
nuts.
Denver
That's
can
just
get there.
nuts.
But I'll more on this game later.
Yeah, and I should also mention we shouldn't shortchange the home field advantage for Denver. That is something that's working in their favor. But given the situational spot, I actually think it's a good thing for the Raiders to get away from that home crowd that's going to just be completely ready to turn on them after that loss to Saturday. And that's what it's like for
Denver right now.
Exactly. So it kind of works in reverse here for a team that, like you said, has just found a way to play well and match up well. So that is going to do it for the Week 11 6-pack. Let's see, who do we got at quarterback? Got some Dak Prescott, some Justin Herbert. You got some good guys this week. Dak, Herbert, and Davis Mills. And I got Matty Ice, Kenny Pickett, and Derek Carr. So pretty average, but you got some studs. So hopefully it's a good week. Got some good quarterbacks. Got Tomlin and got a high school coach. So we got the full gamut here. By
the way, Nathaniel Hackett said someone's got to win this game. So that means it's going to end in a tie, which means you would cover.
Right. Yeah. I mean, 2.5 against the Broncos, you never really feel out of it because they're one of those teams that you could easily have like a 17-16 type of situation. So
yeah, they're one of their wins this year is 11-10.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I actually got the best of that number. I think I got the Niners as a dog and they ended up closing as a favorite. So unfortunately they did not cover for everyone, but yeah, that just speaks to the importance of, even these little half a point here and there when you're facing this team that's just struggled to put the ball in the end zone and probably to move it down the field, just given all the injuries that they're having in this one. All right. So to recap, stuck. You got Dallas -1.5 at Minnesota. The Chargers +5.5 hosting the Chiefs, and the Texans as a home dog. 3.5 against the Commanders. I got the Indianapolis Colts, 6.5-point home dogs against Philly. The Steelers, 4.5-point home dogs against Cincy, and the Vegas Raiders +2.5 at Denver.